of Dear Late Night. With me today, I've got David, and we're going to be talking about his book, Relationship Economics: Transform Your Most Valuable Business Contacts and Personal and Professional Success. And it's the third edition.
What do they say? We have an expression that even a blind squirrel can find a nut. You know, it's thank you, very kind.
It's a good book, David. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good book. And I mean, you say some really good things. But before we get into it, where can people find you?
Yeah, easiest is if you just Google my name, David Nour, N-O-U-R. You'll find plethora of articles, videos. You can also go to Nour Group, N-O-U-R group.com. That's our website. There's a blog there. All of our social channels are there. But yeah, it's going to be hard pressed to not find me somewhere along the way.
So we've already had one comment. Looking forward to the conversation. Practical steps go giving. So thank you so much. The reason why you've come as LinkedIn user is that you need to give permission in your LinkedIn profile for to share your data.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book. So what was the inspiration for the book?
Yeah, so you remember from our conversation, originally from Iran. I didn't get it then, but I distinctly remember being a young lad, and my dad would walk me through the bazaars of Iran on our Friday errands. And Tim, he didn't have just a to-do list or to-get list for mom. He also had a relationship list. And he made sure that we saw, whether it was a local plumber or a politician, we kind of saw the people we needed to before we needed them. And that left an indelible imprint on me at a very young age that relationships cannot be transactional, certainly not the ones we value. We have to become more intentional in the relationships we choose to invest in. And you and I have talked about this, that the rest of the world builds relationships first from which they do business. Regrettably, as Americans or Westerners, we're so focused on the business part that if and only if that part works, I may ask you about your significant other, your kids, or what you do for fun outside of work. So I said there has to be a better way. And the original version in white, right, I wrote in 2008. And I thought if I could show others hopefully a disciplined process on how to identify, build, nurture, sustain, and ultimately capitalize on your relationships, more people could benefit from these ideas. And the green one is the all new post-pandemic written third edition, if you will.
Yeah. So you've got a really interesting life story, haven't you? In terms of you were born in what is now Iran.
Yes.
And then you went across to America, and you turned up in America with what? Like $10 in your pocket or something.
Yeah, $100, a suitcase, didn't know anybody, and didn't speak a word of English.
And didn't speak the language.
And I share that story because it's a testament to the immigrant that's, the immigrant kind of success DNA still believes in the American dream or the Western dream, that if I go get an education and I work hard and, abide by the laws and pay my taxes, I can build a lifestyle. And when I came here, you kind of really feel that, and as you grow up in the States and you get your university and get your job, and you really see and feel the tension between the transactional and the personal, the relational, the transformational in many ways. And that's become kind of my work for the last 20 years.
So we've had a couple of comments. Daryl basically says, great topic. Andrew says, good morning. And Riley basically says, I've known David for 20 years, wonderful person.
Very kind. I pay everybody $1 to say nice things about me, and I just send them out on a regular basis. But very kind from Riley and everybody else.
So why is a relationship so important in business? Because I just see so many people on LinkedIn that see this as just a transaction.
Yeah, and Tim, I got to tell you, I love your book on social selling.
Thank you.
Because I think increasingly, as evident by how many spam emails we all get, cold outreaches will continue to become even more difficult. I don't know you. I don't like you. I certainly don't trust you. I'm sure as hell never going to buy from you. And it's not just product or services, it's also ideas and perspectives. So I've been a student of this for 20 years, advocating that if you focus on another misnomer is we want more. I want more customers, more process. I actually call it the Jerry Maguire, based on the movie, business kind of model or mindset of what if we focused on fewer, but we actually build deeper, richer, more meaningful, more strategic relationships. If you look at anyone's portfolio, I would submit to you that bulk of their success comes from fewer relationships that they've invested in, they've nurtured over time. So I'm not a big proponent. Think about it. No prospect wants to be sequenced. No prospect wants to talk to 8 junior people who can never solve their problems. So why can't we invest in really the development of that next generation to be end-to-end kind of relationship-centered sellers? And the book you were kind enough to mention, the premise is starts with an investment. The challenge is you cannot invest in everybody equally. We just don't have the bandwidth. So how do I focus on? How do I prioritize the relationships that are most relevant, the relationships who candidly get me? So again, companies talk about ICP. I talk about ideal relationship profiles. Who gets you? Who values you? Who can you materially value and really create a difference in their lives? Focus on those, and you'll get a much better, more favorable cost of acquisition. You'll get a much more favorable lifetime value. You'll be more fulfilled. Who wants to be around people who don't want to date you? That's just not a whole lot of fun.
We had another comment saying, interesting that when I come back to Ohio for a bit, I've found much more relational than transactional. So much that I think I should have stayed, and my sons are thinking of moving here.
Yeah, Raleigh, you're exactly right. The Midwestern values were based on the favor economy is based on those relationships, and when you move to the more metropolitan areas. I live in Atlanta, but if you think of New York and if you think of Chicago and Boston, and there's certainly pockets of this. But because we're increasingly a transient society, you get less and less of it. And so doubling down on those relationships in every industry, in every geography, I'm a huge proponent of will dramatically increase your traction and shorten your time to cash, shorten your time to impact. And that's commonly understood, but regrettably not commonly practiced.
So you talk in the book about social capital. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that in the book I try to teach a process. So I want the audience to think about what I've more recently started. And by the way, I'm also a student of this. I'm learning every day. So more recently, I've started calling it intelligent relationship mapping. And I want you to think about, and in the book I talk about, start with the end in mind. Covey says the same thing. Start with the end in mind. So what are you trying to get done? Why do you need a relationship? Then I talk about pivotal contacts. Who do you need? Right? Give me any goal, and I can identify a highly influential, and it's not necessarily an economic buyer or some of the other terminologies we've learned and we've used. Who do you need? We call them pivotal contacts. The person that can send one email, make one introduction, and accelerate your ability to get things done. Then who do you know? We call that your relationship bank. The whole process is predicated on the first step, which is we call relationship currency deposits. That's in essence social capital. How do I invest in an existing relationship that I already have, that knows me, likes me, trusts me, to then, after I've made that investment, when they say that's very kind, what can I do to help you? That reciprocity accelerates my ability to get to a pivotal contact, get to the end result I'm after. Only when you make a deposit have you then earned the right to ask for a withdrawal. Tim, I don't know about your bank. My bank will not let me make $100 deposit and get $1,000 in return. And yet we meet people all the time who ask for a favor where they haven't earned the right to do so. And everybody wants to be nice, so nobody ever calls these people out. You know what they become? Relationship takers. And as long as we kind of enable that behavior, all they'll do is just keep taking, and nobody says anything to them. So I recently got a call. I think this will resonate with you and your audience. I recently got a call from an executive I have not spoken with in at least 3 to 4 years, right? How you doing? And it does the small talk, right? How you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. I exited my last company and I'm not looking for my next kind of role. And I'm like, I'm sorry. When was the last time you called to see how I'm doing?
Yeah.
And what's going on? And I'm not trying to keep score. And this is not tit for tat. It's fundamentally evident that this guy doesn't understand beyond any of our products and services. We're all fundamentally in the relationship business. And if you haven't taken the time to call me in 3 years or email or reach out, just how you doing? How's your business? What did the pandemic do to your business? If you haven't made those investments, you have absolutely no right to ask me for a favor. Let me drop everything else that I'm doing just so I can help you. Relationship givers, takers, and investors. Which one are you? And if I want to ask 30 people who know you, which one would they say you are?
It's a really good point. And one of the things that I love about the book, David, is that I think that the art of networking has been lost.
Huh.
And I don't know why that is. But what you do is you give a blueprint about how to network, which in a way is how to build relationships. And it's a lovely step-by-step process in the way that you do that. That's one of my takeaways from the book.
Very kind. You're going to chuckle because I often refer to networking as one letter away from not working, right? We all go to these events. Tim, I'm old school. We used to kind of dispense business cards, right? We give out business cards, we collect business cards, and it's transactional. It's superficial.
I got a load here. Just
like, right. So instead, I was at an event. I was at a dinner, lovely dinner last night, 10 people. And we kind of went around and I knew them at a maybe name and title and company, but I didn't really know them. And if you think about it, it was a 4-hour dinner. Over 4 hours, you get to know them. We had such incredible, rich conversations. And this morning, I sent them an email with just enormous gratitude for the richness of that conversation. I got to know each of them kind of on a much deeper level. And I was invited to this one. Now I'm thinking, I want to go back to doing these things because I'd rather have a really lovely dinner with 10 people in the room that you really get to know well than go to another event where there's 100 people there and you walk away with a stack of cards and you're like, they're not relevant to me. They're not, they're not in my world. They're not my kind of people. And you don't have to like everybody around that dinner table, but investing the time to go deeper. That's really what I've become an advocate of. Fewer, deeper, richer, more meaningful.
So Alistair said, there's an old saying that people buy from people, and it is so true. Absolutely, Alistair, I agree with that. So you talk about reciprocity. Talk us through that in more detail, because you talk about it in your book, and you talk about the importance of that in relationships.
Yeah, 3 fundamental laws in every business relationship, right? So think about it. In the words of the famed philosopher Britney Spears, this won't be rocket surgery, right? But think about it a second.
I thought it was going to be hit me one more time, David.
Right? Number 1 is
no one's ever quoted Britney Spears on this podcast before.
I want to be the first. Boom.
You are.
You hang out long enough. I'm going to go to Taylor Swift next.
Yeah.
Number 1 is gratitude. We do something for somebody else, they should absolutely say thank you. If they don't, your yellow flag should go up. Number 2, you brought it up, reciprocity. Maybe not today, tomorrow, next week, or next month, but Tim, you and I go out of our way. We add value to somebody else's life. At some point, they should say thank you, and that was very kind of you. What can I do to help you? This world runs beyond the above kind of ground economy. There's a whole underground favor economy. And if you don't do that, if you're not reciprocating kindness by others, you're soon they're going to stop returning your calls and emails, right? So that reciprocity is the second one. The last one is this idea of paying it forward. So if I coach you, if I mentor you, if I'm kind to you, if I give to you, not saying it, I need to experience it. Relationships have to be felt. I need to experience you paying it forward for somebody else, because none of us are an island and none of us were born with any of this. Somebody somewhere took us under their wings and taught us how to shake a hand and look someone in the eye and go out of our way to help them. And when you pay it forward, when you coach and mentor that next generation, by the way, those of us in the third quarter of our lives, in the fall of our careers, are going to need that next generation. And I'm telling you, frighteningly, we've all seen this. They're very good at this. They're very bad at this. And if we don't step up, if those of us that are losing hair, I'm not complaining around you, but the rest of us,
it's all the fashion here, you know?
Right? It is all the fashion. They're not even turning gray. They're leaving at an accelerated pace, right? If we don't step up and we don't take in interns and co-ops and immerse ourselves in opportunities to coach, mentor, shape, forget managers and leaders, the human beings they become, we're in for a rude awakening. So gratitude, reciprocity, pay it forward. Fundamental laws in every business relationship.
So we've got a couple more comments. Andrew says networking has fallen to the wayside due to people becoming lazy and thinking that just because we see someone on a social network, we know someone. They do not do the work to get to know the person. Good point, Andrew.
Andrew, I've always believed social media is everybody's highlight reel, right? Have you noticed nobody, posts, I'm struggling with this, and by the way, please, we got to stop treating LinkedIn like Facebook, right? There's at least a social network for business professionals.
And Riley basically says exactly. I'm trying to read it from here. David Noel got to know me. He can probably tell you about me. I just spent 20 minutes on the phone with an OSU professor. I hired him for a summer of research. Anyway, thank you, Riley. That's really brilliant.
Yeah.
And Andrew said this is about the Britney Spears quote.
No, don't forget the famed philosopher Britney Spears.
Yeah. And I think Riley's having a conversation now with Andrew, and Anna says, I don't think the art of networking has been lost as much as people hiding behind technology. If you look at how many generations interact today, it's online and masks can be built, but the human connection is lost.
Oh, Alistair, love that. Yes. And we've got to, I force myself to get out for coffee meetings, for lunch meetings, for events. And I push every organization I belong to. Most people gather fundamentally for two reasons: content and community. I don't care if it's a sales kickoff or any kind of an industry association event, any gathering. Who else will be there? And what can I learn? Those are the two things that compel us to get up and shave and shower and get dressed and deal with traffic and drive over there and park and go up and register and pay and show up at the event. And by the way, if I show up and the whole time I'm thinking I could have done this over Zoom, not going to the next one. So it's incumbent on people who put on the event to leverage the fact that we are in person and not just make a one-directional talking head information sharing. I can do that on a position paper. I can do that in these Hollywood squares. What I cannot do virtually is shake a hand, meet a person, talk to them, get to know them, and connect with like-minded professionals.
I think Mark basically says picking up the phone and actually calling someone is a lost art.
Mark and I laughed about this. I call it this antiquated device where you actually hit numbers and a person's voice shows up at the other end. I think the next generation has no idea what I'm talking about.
So is there some sort of business case for generating relationships? I mean, we've all talked about it and we've patted ourselves on the back and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we need to have, what's the money? Show me the money.
Tim, great question. So I want to go back to something I said earlier. These 4 steps have been proven. They continue to be proven regardless of how sophisticated your business model, your technology is. Know me, like me, trust me, pay me. It works in that sequence. So if you get to know me, hopefully you can see that you like me. And Johnny Carson used to say there's a likability factor for most of us. If you like me, you'll invest time to get to know me, and really understand and see opportunities where you can trust me. Only when you trust me will you buy from me. Products, services, ideas, perspectives, why we should do something a different way. So the quantifiable value that we've proven time and time again is that time really is money. So if you think of, I can use customer acquisition cost, CAC, I brought up earlier. If in a business model, the CAC is greater than the lifetime value of that relationship, I equate it to buying something for $2, trying to sell it for $1 and making it up on volume. It does not work. You're not going to get there. And the frightening part about CAC is it's really only measured when an opportunity gets into a pipeline. We don't think about what it takes to nurture that relationship to get them into a pipeline. So one of the biggest, most quantifiable for certainly market-facing professionals is what's that relationship acquisition cost? And similarly, what's the not lifetime value of a contact, but of that relationship? One example for you. I've always believed every referral is a recommendation. If you're not getting referred, why is that? This would be a really good time to ask. But when you are referred, you still have to earn the credibility, the trust, the repute, but you are riding somebody else's coattail to get there. And you just got pushed to the front of the line versus everybody else who's trying to get there. So that time, I said it earlier, time to cash, time to impact becomes invaluable. McKinsey, so that's market facing. McKinsey published a research. Number one reason most people leave a company, they don't feel a sense of belonging. I peel back that onion, they don't have any friends at work. I peel that onion further with this whole remote. Listen, I love the flexibility of working from home, but guess what? What we miss is the hallway conversations. What we miss is the small talk before that next meeting while we're sitting in the room. What we miss is the hugs and appropriate pats on the back and all of those things that you cannot get virtually. So you want to talk about the value, the economic value of relationships, time, differentiating yourself amongst others, impact, how quickly can I and how deeply can I create impact? Those are just a few that, again, we've proven several times from those who choose, and it's a choice, to invest in fewer meaningful relationships.
David, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about
It was delightful to be with you.
Relationship economics. Where can I buy a copy?
Amazon. Get on Amazon, search Relationship Economics 3rd edition. Again, the original one
edition with the green cover.
That's right. This is the first one, white. You want the green one.
You want the 3rd edition.
Why would you buy, an old book? Buy a new one, right? The green mint green 3rd edition.
So, and where can people find you, David?
Yeah, just Google my name, David Nour, N-O-U-R, or Nour Group. NOURgroup.com is the best place to learn more about me and our work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you for everybody in terms of your comments.